Reconstruction, a tumultuous time in the history of America as we're trying to rebuild the country from a fractured form of its former self to a very new and more powerful country at that point. Now, with all these laws, that inevitable kickback. We always talk about two sides to every story. Well, there's going to be the one side that we see that everybody loves to give everybody their freedom and it looks great on paper and that's going to happen from the whites who formerly owned most of the land, if not all of it, in the South. And we have to try to figure out why. We've been in control for 250 years. Nobody's going to take this away from us. Get out of here. We don't need you. Government, go away. Control. You were our slaves for 200 years. We're going to keep you where you were before that. So we have a lot of things rattling around in people's heads here. So let's think about that for a second. Why? Why did they resent this so much? Why was there such pushback? And what exactly did they do in order to fight back against this? Because once the government, it's supposed to be once the government tells you to do something, that's it. It's going. It's done. It's word. It's in the air. You're done. That's it. You can't do anything else. You have to do what they say. So what were the things that made them fight back? What did they fight back with? We have the Southern reaction here. What did all these people think? All these people. They enacted the black codes. Oh, these were just such amazing laws back then, weren't they? Note the sarcasm in my voice. What did they do? Imagine the fact that you couldn't vote. Even though you've been given your right to vote, you can't vote. You can't own a gun because they think you're too dangerous. They set curfews. You had to be in by a certain time. If you weren't in by a certain time, you had to have papers. If you didn't have papers, you could not be out. If you didn't have papers and you were out and you were caught, you were thrown into jail and you had to work for nothing for the county. If you, like I said, couldn't own a gun, you needed papers to travel. Could only be farmers or servants. I mean, think about that for a second. You spent all those 200 years being farmers and servants, and now these are the only jobs that you're relegated to. You cannot do any better than that. I mean, how does it make you feel as a freedman to know that you did all this fighting and you've come away with basically the same situation you were in before? That's just, in my mind, terrible. Just to think about, to look at, to think about all of these things as far as you've come, that there's just nothing there that has really changed. It's just changes on paper. That's all it is. It's not changes for any specific reason, not changes of any really large part. It is just a change on paper. Because you still have to be in by a certain time. You still needed papers to travel as you did when you were a slave. You still can't own a gun as you couldn't when you were a slave. It's just horrendous. It's horrific stuff. I mean, people from the north, they must have a reaction, right? You think they must have something that they think about when they hear about this, because they didn't hear about it at first. But there must be something they're thinking about here. I mean, the northern reaction is being horrified, like, oh my God, what's going on here? We just fought all these years and lost all these 600 plus thousand men to get this done. And where does victory go? Where are the spoils of victory? Civil War victory. Our victory is being wasted. on racism and nonsense. So our reaction first off is to pass the 14th Amendment, which gives all freedmen or former slaves the same rights as a citizen of the United States. Does it really work? We'll see. Well, yeah, we'll find out here. I mean, when they heard all this, when they thought about what was being done, what can happen? I mean, what was the reaction of the South? Because now, first we have Reconstruction. Freedmen, slaves are free, slaves get their rights. Whites fight back. The Southern whites fight back. They make up their own laws and do their own thing. And now we have the 14th Amendment. We have the government stepping in saying this is what we have to do. And now we have another fight back. We have more backlash from this. How did they react to all this change? We have all these secret groups that come out. Imagine the KKK comes out of this with police and firemen and doctors and lawyers. All these big men in high places, even mayors of cities were involved in this, wearing these white masks, and all out of fear. Man, burning crosses. Imagine the sight of a burning cross on your lawn because you're a black man buying a house, or you're a black man going for a job, or going to vote. Imagine walking down the street and a white man comes up to you and starts beating you in front of your family. That's a big thing right there. Because you're the man of the house. You're supposed to be protecting your house, and you can't. They're telling you that you're not in control, that you don't have the power to do anything. And if that doesn't work, they're going to kill you. This is a huge deal. This is big. They have burning crosses and violent beatings and people being taken out of their houses and you name it, kidnapping and killing people. I mean, today we have a different name for them. They'd be called terrorist groups. This is a homegrown terrorist group, the KKK. Now, what is our reaction to that? We have, again, we go back, we have Reconstruction, backlash. Reaction, amendments, 14 and 15, backlash. Then we go and we have other things like KKK and all these other backlash things where we have mayors and doctors and lawyers dressing up to put these freedmen back in the position that they were. I mean, they tried to stop them from getting jobs, buying houses, voting, running for office, anything. Threaten people, set fire to the businesses, set fire to the houses, beat them up in the streets. So you name it, they did it. And it gained a lot of attention, this violence. And eventually, President Grant had to step in again. The president reacts now. He sends in the army, settles them down, declares martial law, military's in charge, sends all the military down. Newspapers are printing all these stories. And then imagine this, they arrest all these members of the KKK. They put them on trial. So, but here's a question I'm going to leave you with. Is the trial that they put them on, is it really going to be effective? Answer really is no, it's not. I mean, you take all these white men in powerful positions. Number one, they're in powerful spots. They're in control. They're pillars, so-called pillars of the community here. Guys that are in high places. You put them on trial in their hometown. They're being tried by judges that they know. The witnesses in the trials are people they know. How effective could this be? Not very well at all. Peace is restored, very short time. And I feel like that no matter how far we've come, we still have very much the same things that are going on today, just in a different format. KKK still exists. Violence still exists between races. We still have a long way to go. But in the case of the violence and the resistance here, nothing was ever really solved.